Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heinz. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Finally, it's been a while. It's been a long time, but another episode of the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. I'm Daniel, State of the Steelers. Alongside with me, who's also recording and going live on his channel, is Nathan Heinz from In Hindsight. Nathan, it's been a while, man. How you been?
Yeah, it has. Good to catch up. It definitely has been a while. Daniel's been busy. I've been busy with things, and it's been hard to find a really good set time where both of us could work together here. So forgive us for the little hiatus there, but we hope that we can find just consistency each week to bring you guys some good content on both our channels. So, but yeah, it's good to be back. Good to talk some Steelers football. Season's starting in form. So excited to do this one, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. The Steelers are 1-0, first place in the division. I hope I see Z in the live chat a little bit later. I want to see how he's feeling.
Yeah.
See if he's okay. If he's made it all right since last Thursday.
He's actually going to be going to Baltimore for the game this weekend.
Really? Yeah. Awesome. Hope he has a good time. I hope it's not too good of a time, but I hope he has a good time.
Yeah, he's looking for. He tries to go once a year.
That's great. In fact, I'm actually the game I'm going to this year is against Baltimore. So I'll be out there in Pittsburgh come November to go check that out. So,
heck yeah.
Hell yeah, man. All righty. So let's get into the content. Let's get back into what people want to hear. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we got a little bit of news. We'll start off first and foremost. Arthur Smith spoke to the media, talked about the offensive game plan. I'm sure you've seen, I'm sure everybody's seen it. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense avoided the middle of the field. What were your thoughts on first that? And, Arthur Smith said basically the reason why was because of their safeties that they have.
Yeah. I respect it, honestly.
Okay. You don't think it's a little bit of living in your fears?
No, not too much, because you can look at it like that, but a lot of teams do that. There's a lot of teams that game plan for certain positional players. Minkah Fitzpatrick's a guy that gets game planned at. So we know that. I think really what it comes down to for us, if any of us fans are kind of questioning it or it's just because the middle of the field's been absent the last 3 years. That's why. So give it some time. If it's something that starts to throw a common theme in terms of, again, they're avoiding the middle of the field and they're looking at more sideline work or outside the numbers, things like that, then okay, you can kind of maybe start to question things. But I think especially it being the first game, Atlanta has a very respectable secondary. You got to respect that. The Steelers had opportunities. Jared Devil, what's up, man? It's good to see you again. Thanks for coming in here, as always. The Steelers had opportunities as well to I don't know, they were inside the 30 a couple times. So there are a couple missed opportunities there. To me, looking at their offense, the first game, there were a lot of 2 tight end sets. There was a lot of bootleg play actions, and that was something that was expected, stuff that Arthur Smith likes to do. They're trying. They definitely want to ho-hum on running the football, which I understand. There's still a concern there at the other wide receiver. Van Jefferson had 1 catch and a horrific penalty. Pat Freiermuth wasn't too involved. It was definitely really George Pickens and not really anybody else in terms of the passing game, let's be honest. But in terms of middle of the field, I understand the respect to Jesse Bates. I understand the respect to that Falcons secondary as well. It's going to be telling come Denver and come the Chargers, for example, of really what they're trying to do. And if we start to see a little bit more movement in the middle of the field, or if we don't. And if we don't, then it might start to get a little concerning. But off the first game, I'm going to buy into what Arthur Smith is selling the first game. If we start to see a little common traction where we're not really seeing that, then I'm going to kind of start scratching my head a little bit and be like, listen, I'm not saying we got to target that part of the field all the time, but we got to look there. We got to expose a little bit. We got to expose that defense a little bit. We got to keep the defense on their toes. And with that being said, I'm going to give it a pass. The first week, Justin Fields was in there. You're trying to get a new system. You have 2 new quarterbacks in there, still trying to figure things out, which I do think the start of their schedule being a little bit more lighter part of their season is a better scenario for their offense in terms of clicking, in terms of gelling, in terms of figuring each other out rather than facing a slaughter fest right away. And then you just lose a lot of momentum and you're not bought in and everything like that. So Atlanta was a questionable game going in because they have Kirk, they have a new coaching staff as well, a new offensive system. We'll break down more of the game, but yeah, I hope with Denver, at least we're going to see a little bit more of that. And if Roman Wilson plays, maybe that might add a little bit of an element.
I hope so. I think he is. I mean, he's been a full participant at practice. Yeah. To me, when I watched the game live, I was, the first couple of drives, one, the inaccuracies of Justin Fields in the first drive was present, obviously. I mean, it was there. He missed Van Jefferson wide open, there in the flat, and that would have been a first down. And, I think that took a toll on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that was one of the reasons why they ended up going 3rd and 6 and handing the ball off to Cordell Patterson.
Right.
Now, I thought the offensive line played well. And, we got some news today that Troy Fautanu ended up taking starting snaps at the right tackle position. And at left tackle, it was Dan Moore, essentially benching Broderick Jones. Now, he's had his elbow injury. That's been going on since preseason. Is this a move based on the performance that he's played, or maybe the Steelers are thinking maybe he needs to get more healthy? Dan Moore didn't look bad against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
What do you take from the fact that this Sunday, when they go into Denver, that it might be Dan Moore and the rookie on the opposite side?
Well, I think Dan Moore, Daniel, is going to be a starting left tackle the next 20 years, to be honest. He's like a gnat. He doesn't go away. But I give him credit. He definitely had a high grade. He held his own. Probably one of the better games he's played through his career so far. The Steelers aren't just going to yank him after that. The first game of the season is never really telling in terms of who's who, what's what you have, what you don't have. We're really going to have to amp the pace. Maybe once we get to week 4, week 5, we'll have a little bit more of an idea. And with Broderick Jones, a lot of people are upset because they want him to start. Steelers trade up for him. I understand. At the same time, he's only 22 years old. I'm okay in terms of, listen, I would love it if Broderick Jones was starting left tackle, but it could be a mixture of everything. The elbow, it could be a mixture of whatever they're seeing in practice, like he's just not clicking in certain areas, but they definitely drafted him to be the left tackle. He's going to be the left tackle at some point. Now, if that works out long-term, great. If it doesn't work out long-term, we'll see. But I don't want to be too concerned about it. I think Broderick Jones has handled himself fairly well, listening to him. And if he doesn't play, it's just something of where hopefully, not saying I want Dan Moore to fail or I want him to play bad or anything. I don't want anybody to lose their starting role. But hopefully it gets to a point where we will see Broderick at left tackle, and we can get that Broderick Troy duo of the future. But that will be determined. I won't be surprised if Broderick Jones doesn't play, but I hope for his sake that it's a little bit more of a health problem more so than it is a technique play issue problem for him. But I not going to freak out just yet. I think if it gets to the point where, like, now if Dan Moore's playing really well, then like, okay, that's going to be hard to like pull him. You're not just going to do that. But even if Dan Moore's shaky and they're still not starting Broderick Jones, that's when it's going to be a concern.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think this is a 2-part answer. I do think that the health is a concern, But I think it's also the fact that he has been mainly playing right side. I think he's gotten a little bit of practice with the second team here and there on the left side, but in preparation, especially for last week for a game, I highly doubt they were putting him in reps on the left side that were outside of just the few in case Dan Moore did get hurt or something like that happened and he had to shift over. So I think that there's two aspects. I think they need to get him healthy. I think that he may have found a way to protect himself on one side, and now he has to find a way to protect himself on the other side or until his elbow heals.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not, jumping off of a cliff yet thinking, all right, man, this guy's a bust or any of those things. I think he played okay.
He's only 22.
Yeah.
He's still a young buck. So
Yeah, he's he's actually younger than Fatuanu on the Fatuanu on the other side.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I'm not gonna, say, oh yeah, this guy's a bust, he can't do it. I think this guy has a lot of talent. I think that one of the reasons why he wasn't the first guy taken off the board last season as a tackle was because I think a lot of people identified how raw he was. He didn't have a lot of starting time in Georgia. He only had like 1 year under his belt or something like that. And although he did really good, it's just 1 year. The experience isn't there. It's different, for instance, for the rookies that the Pittsburgh Steelers got this year, who will be starting on the offensive line this upcoming Sunday, and Frazier and Troy. Those guys have extensive amount of games under their collegiate belt. So I think that plays a role. Although he's the second year guy, he's probably needs a lot more work than what Troy does on the right side. So, at the end of the day, I want the best 5 guys out there. And if at this point, whether it's because of injury experience or performance, or even a combination of those 3, if it's Dan Moore, I mean, it's fine. Keep him out there. Let's have the best 5. But don't keep him out there just for the sake of keeping him out there. If he gets shaky, maybe you need to do your due diligence. And
that's the thing. Like you just kind of got to take, because we all know Dan Moore, what is this, his 4th year now? Dan Moore does deserve credit. He hasn't, he definitely deserves credit. I don't think anybody's discrediting the guy. He's worked hard. He's been a good teammate. It's just, we look at Dan Moore's track record. We know that there were a lot of struggles with him the last 3 years. And last year, when they drafted Broderick Jones, everybody was calling for the guy to get replaced. And Broderick Jones didn't come on the scene right away, played a lot of right tackle last year, and hasn't had the opportunity yet. So that's the thing. If Dan Moore's working hard and improving different aspects of his game, you keep him in. But if he starts to get shaky and everything like that, then you play the guy who you traded up multiple spots for to be your franchise left tackle. That's all it is.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's all it is. That's all it is. It doesn't need to go any deeper than that.
Yeah, and it appears though that who they will be blocking for will be Justin Fields again. Tomlin came out earlier this week in his press conference, talked about how they're preparing for Justin Fields. One reporter asked him, if Russ was healthy, would you consider starting Russ? And I believe his statement was, that's a big if. I don't think he's too keen, or maybe perhaps he's not too confident in the idea that Russ is going to be cleared to go, or at least whatever Russ' ability is at the time of him being cleared, if that's not going to be better than what Justin Fields can bring. So like, for instance, maybe 100% of Russ cannot perform 100% of Justin Fields, but maybe not 75% Russ.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that might be a situation. And so Justin Fields is going to get another opportunity to go out there. I think this is a huge opportunity for him to actually maintain the job, similar to like what you said with Dan Moore. If Dan Moore's out there performing at an elite level, or at least, a professional level, you're going to keep him out there. And if Justin Fields is performing at a peak level, I think you keep him out there too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the all 22 yet, but I watched the game like 3 times already. It seems like he was making a lot of the smart decisions. I know that there was one, who was it? The tall guy that ran out of the back of the end zone. Orlowski? Is that his name?
Who?
Dan Orlowski?
Oh, yeah, the quarterback?
Yeah. So he was complaining about this one instance where Justin Fields ran up and took off running and got the first down. And he's like, oh, he should have thrown it to Pat Freiermuth right here. And, from one angle, it looks pretty good. You have You have you have the middle linebacker on his left side, and you have a corner kind of far out to the right. So there is a little bit of a window there. But right behind that middle linebacker, just waiting to jump this was one of their safeties. And I'm like, how do you not see the safety just right there, right next to him, ready to jump it? He didn't throw it there. And he made a good decision on not throwing it there. And so, I think maybe perhaps once the Steelers actually got a hold of the film, maybe perhaps he performed a lot better than what was there, the first time around. Once you get to break things down and see, all right, who's at fault here, who's not at fault. Maybe he played a lot better. Maybe they can open up that playbook a little bit more. One clue to that, in my opinion, more than anything, is the fact that right there with 30 some odd seconds left in the half, they allowed him to drive the ball down the field. That would have been a knee. I think maybe 2018 may have been the last year the Steelers would have tried something like that.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's actually funny because that play that you said, like with 30 seconds, I actually flipped it to red zone. So I actually missed the play. And then on red zone, they pulled up the play where the Steelers about to kick a field goal. I'm like, what just happened? Because I was just expecting them, honestly, to knee it or something and go to half. But then I rewatched it. So it was really cool that they allowed him to do that. And I agree. I do think it's something with it being the first game and new offense, new quarterback. You're not going to put all your eggs in one basket week one. It's just not going to happen. They gave Fields some opportunity to make plays with his legs. They gave him some opportunity to make some plays with his arms, and he did some of that. What I took away from Fields is still he gave me the vibes of Fields from Chicago, and that's okay. I didn't expect Justin Fields, if he was going to play early on, I wasn't going to expect him to have a lot of changes in his game right away. It takes time. The thing with Fields is there's a lot of upside and a lot of excitement that he can bring. But there's still messiness. There's the sack issues. There's the fumble issues. We saw that literally right when the game started. There's just mental lapses. And you can go back, look at games from Chicago, look at highlights from Chicago days. That stuff was there. The good news is that Fields can clean those aspects up. Those aren't aspects of his game that are limited, like a Kyler Murray, for example, with some of the aspects in his game that he can't overcome as a smaller quarterback, for example. With Fields, he has a strong arm. He has a good arm. He can run. His legs are great. But there's aspects that hold him back and why he hasn't flourished yet as really a ultimate first-round talent. But there's a lot there to like, and there's a lot there to hope to really unfold with him. And that's why I thought it was probably maybe a good idea for him just to sit and relax a little bit and reset and just take some time. But that's not the case right now. So this is definitely a great opportunity for him. If it gets to the point where Fields, maybe they're winning more than they're not, but Fields still isn't really quite like, I'm still okay if they would, for some reason, want to sit him for a little bit. And that could be a whole nother thing. Obviously, if Fields balls out and does even better, you're going to ride the hot hand. You're not going to pull him. You're going to continue to let Russ take some time. But with Fields, I did like things. He didn't turn the ball over, which was good. He made some good reads. He made some good plays with his legs. He also made some mistakes, holding on to the ball, trying to make a couple plays with his legs that ended up in a sack. That's just him, and that's just been him. And you have to kind of take the good with the bad and just really hope that you can really take out the rest of this untapped potential that I believe is there. Like Fields, if you clean up those mistakes of the turnovers, you clean up some of the mental lapses, you clean up some of the inconsistencies on his throws, like he can be a really solid quarterback, especially in today's NFL. Like he really can. And that's why there's a lot of things to like. I wish that they were able to find the end zone. I really do. A lot of people will look at his passing chart and look at it. Oh, well, that's how it was last year. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, you know what? The things that Fields did last year, or there are things that Fields did this game. There's a handful of things you can pick out that you didn't see any of those quarterbacks do last year.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they didn't score a touchdown, I think Fields did enough to keep them in the game where they had opportunities to score. And you had the fall short on the 4th and 1. You had, obviously Boz led it with the field goals, but when you're inside the 30 2 or 3 times, you got to do that. You got to be able to punch it in. We know that. But the thing I take away from that is that they only had 2 3-and-outs the whole game.
Yeah,
they had 2
that's true.
3-and-outs. Last year, how many were there every game? Probably about a good 5 or 6 of them.
In the first quarter.
Yeah. So, yeah. So and Jared Devil makes they had a good time of possession. The Steelers held the ball on for a good bit of time. They had a few long drives. So I have positives to take away. There's still some things you take away where it's like, okay, that's Justin Fields. That's who he's been. But I'm still confident in him, in his ability to hopefully, as the season goes on, whether he's starting or he's sitting, I'm confident that he will be their starter next year. And I'm confident that there's going to be more polishing. Let me put it that way. I don't think Fields is going to get to the point where we're looking at him as like a top 15 quarterback. I mean, maybe, if certain things go right, you could maybe that could get there. But I think realistically, if Fields could find himself inside the 20, like maybe 18, 17, 16 by the end of the season, I think that's a positive takeaway, all things considered. I really do. And we look at the Steelers too, really outside of Pickens. I mean, they're banking on Freiermuth, but there's really no threat there. And hopefully Roman Wilson can offer a little bit of something to help out. But I'm going to lean more, Daniel, on more of some of those positives I saw with the offense than some of the negatives to take away.
Now, I agree with you, but when it comes to the wide receiver position, I don't think the Steelers are done. They don't put that much effort into acquiring Brandon Ayuk. Now, I get it. Maybe perhaps they were trying to show that they were desperate for it and willing to give up everything. But at the end of the day, they were willing to give up some pretty good capital, a second and a fifth, and pay him $28 million. Right. That's not that would have made him the highest free agent trade or whatever person that they would have gotten and then paid that wasn't part of the organization already. And, you don't make those type of moves and commitments without thinking that you have a need for it. If you think that you're okay in that position, there's no point in capital or investing in that much into that certain position. And even at that, Roman Wilson was a part of the offense when this was going on. Now, granted, he was hurt during that time, but I'm not necessarily sure if Roman Wilson is going to be the guy that's going to be replacing Deontay Johnson's position, so to speak.
No. Why don't they just trade back for him?
I hope
Why don't they just go get him back? They might as well at this point.
Yeah, maybe they could. I don't remember who it was, but I heard it somewhere. I was like, man, wouldn't it have been nice if the Steelers didn't just often trade Deontay Johnson so quickly and kept him as the trade capital for Brandon Ayuk?
Right.
Like, man, that would have worked. I
think that could have got it done.
Oh, yeah, because I think what was going on was they were going to get Cortland Sutton for a third, but Denver pulled out of that, and so they pulled out of the trade with the Steelers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I think there's still going to be something done.
There still could. Maybe come like week 4, week 5, maybe by the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but like John Mechie just kind of like comes to mind. I don't know why.
Well, it's just clogged over there.
It is, and he was a healthy scratch on week 1. So, like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
He's another guy that didn't play last year. He had cancer he was battling. Back this year, but it's just so clogged. The opportunity isn't there.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't take an arm and leg to get a guy like that. Maybe Houston's being a little hesitant right now or just keeping tabs on what they got, but he'd be somebody I'd be open to, just a guy that does have upside, that was exciting in college and just hasn't had the opportunity yet to start.
And, I know the Steelers don't do this with the single digit stuff, but correct me if I'm wrong. He's number 8 in Houston. I think number 8 is available for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's ready to go.
I think Waitman has it now.
Oh, does Waitman have it?
I think Waitman got 8. Yeah.
Oh, well, it wouldn't be that bad to take it from him if he gets traded right away. It wouldn't be that hard.
That's fine with me. Honestly, that's fine with me.
I can bring out my 8 jersey again. Just kind of
there you go.
Put some duct tape on the back there, right? And a new name.
Yeah, then it doesn't have to go to waste.
Exactly. I had it for a whole year. Just 1 year. I need to use it more.
Yeah.
But I digress on that. You know, to me, kind of going back to the Atlanta game, and what I think that maybe offensively, and especially for Justin Fields, that this game here has an opportunity or has a chance to be a much better performance for him. Last week's game, there was a lot of under center stuff. And to me, what I was seeing there was one, a lot of it was like maybe perhaps Russ's game plan. And the other part of it was trying to implement things to protect Justin Fields because they didn't have a full week of preparation with him being the guy, being the starter. And so, I saw them cut the field in half quite a bit. And I think for this week, preparing a full week with him as the guy, as the starter, I think we're going to see the field open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more of what he likes to do. And maybe perhaps we're going to see a lot more success for Justin Fields. And if he can get that there, I mean, I wanted to see what Russ can do. I was excited for what he can do, but I mean, the upside is with Justin Fields, in my opinion.
It is. And that's the ultimate hope. The guy's 25. He's started 3 years in the league. The ultimate hope is to get more out of him that is there, at least that we think is there, and for him to be their guy that they go forward with. That's the ultimate hope. But that's the business of the game. Now, could you see a situation if Fields just does well and just really ends up playing, like just ends up starting, that you have a team out there that maybe calls in for Russell Wilson's, I don't know, trade call?
Well, Russell has a no trade clause, so it'd have to go through him. He'd have to agree to the compensation. Well, he'd have to agree to the location, right? Now, he's not going to get paid anything regardless because he's getting paid in Denver. So it'd have to be the right situation for him.
Yeah.
Like going to a place like Green Bay where, a Jordan Love's going to be out for the future, maybe 6 weeks or so. And he's going to come back. He eventually is going to be the starter. Russ is eventually going to go to the bench. So I'm not sure if that's a place or a location he may want to go to.
Right.
I'm not sure about maybe New York. I think that was one place that he was thinking about going already. Daniel Jones isn't,
miserable.
Anything. Yeah,
miserable.
So, I mean, there's that chance he might end up there. But, what would the Steelers get in return?
Not much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they already have 10 draft picks going into this upcoming
I think
draft.
that they're just better off hanging on to him because with Fields, it's like even if he does well against Denver, you still have to be cautious because you have to be cautious until Fields gives you a reason to be comfortable. And there's a stretch in the season that as we look at it, it's really rough. And you can't count out an injury. You can't count out poor play. You can't count out hey, they're in a playoff spot. Fields is just really struggling. You can't rule anything like that out. Now, and here's the thing too. If Fields, like I said, even if they win Sunday, which I think they will, but Fields is kind of, just doing just Justin Fields and just not really quite moving the needle. I don't, maybe it's still gives the Steelers a reason. Okay, Justin, we believe in you. We want you to eventually be our future, blah, blah, blah. We just need you to sit for a little bit. We need you to work these things out. We need you to work these kinks out. We need you to get better in these certain areas. And we're going to want to see you back out there. And then maybe you go to Russell Wilson for a little bit, if that's the case. Because you can't, you can talk yourself into Fields end up keeping the job. He definitely could, but there's also a possibility he doesn't.
See, when it comes to Mike Tomlin, though, he's always let me put it this way. He's outside of Ben Roethlisberger when it comes to the quarterback position. It's like he holds on one game too long, but if you're winning, he'll let you keep going. This goes back to Mason and Duck. I think Duck coming in for Mason when he did was more of a situation like, all right, the helmet thing just happened with Mason. He just got the team just got their butts handed to him, against a divisional foe where he threw, I don't know how many interceptions. And then we're going up against, I think it was the Bengals, and then he throws another interception. He needed to sit. I don't think what they expected to happen was Duck to win and then win again. And so he was willing to go with the hot hand there. And when it came down to benching either Duck, remember, because Duck, he had a game that was bad. And then it was another half game. In my opinion, he waited a full game too late to get Mason back in. But that's very old news. The same thing kind of happened last year. Mitch Trubisky gets in there and kind of holds on to him too long, and then Mason comes in and Mason don't let it go. Kenny gets healthy, but he doesn't give it back to him. He lets the hot hand win. So I think that as long as Justin Fields is winning games and he's not, and they're not winning, how can I put it? If they're winning, even if it's in the manner that they just won, where time of possession was in favor of the Pittsburgh Steelers, it was ground and pound, the whole 9 yards. I think they still keep him out there until he shows multiple games. Now, that's if he puts a couple of games under his belt. He has to win this one, maybe even the next one. And I think at that point, he earns himself, a little bit longer of a leash.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Do you think Russ is actually healthy, but they're just kind of like pushing him back? Or you think that because Russ wanted to play?
Yeah, he wanted to play. I think it was Al Saunders who had mentioned that he had seen him, or maybe it was DK, one of those guys. They had seen him in the spring, and he was running around. He was running good. And then when they were watching him at the pregame at Atlanta, it was not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. In fact, he came out and he talked today, and he mentioned that it was a stronger injury.
Mm-hmm.
It was a strong calf injury. So whatever strong means, it means it wasn't a as minor as they were making people think it would have been. Maybe perhaps there is a Joe Burrow calf thing.
If you had to place your money, do you think we see him this year?
Eventually, I think that there's going to be a game or so where Fields ends up going down for a game or two or whatever the case may be. But I do, last season,
like getting benched or he gets hurt.
Yeah, I can see. I don't think. Well, I don't know. I mean, that schedule down the second half of the year isn't easy. If he, I'll tell you after this week. I think that if he,
that's fine. That's fair.
If he continues going upward, because I don't know this is, to me, that's the bar. What he played last week. If he goes below the bar of what he did last week, I think he's out.
Okay.
If he continues to go up, I think he'll keep it.
Even if they win, but goes below the bar, you think he's out?
Yeah, because I think there is a possibility that this defense is so good that they can win a game on their own. I mean, they did it last year against the Browns.
Right.
So, well, I mean, there's a pretty big stat when the Steelers don't turn the ball over. I think there was something like 13-3 or something like that. And when they do turn it over, regardless of the turnover ratio, even if they're winning 4-1 or whatever, I think it's like the opposite. It's like 2-16 or something like that. And so that tells me that they're dependent also on the defense. If they're playing that kind of game and they're playing against teams that they should be lighting up, or at least having some success, I do think that there's a possibility that he could get benched for that.
Right.
But I don't see. I don't think Wilson will be number 2 this week. I think he might sit again.
Yeah.
He's a limited participant yesterday. It was a limited participant today. Yeah, I think he's going to be the 3rd QB. I think that the moment we see Russ in there at the number 2 spot, maybe there's a little bit more pressure there. But I don't see that happening this week. I think that if Justin goes out there and just drops a horrible game, even if the Steelers win, I think if Russ is healthy week 3, he's in.
They're just, Tomlin's just going to say, like, he's been the starter. He is the starter. And, like, Fields is like, hey, we appreciate what you've done. We just need you to sit a little bit. We need you to work these things out.
Yeah, I don't think the Steelers are, I think they're comfortable with their options. And I think that they're comfortable in which way that they have to go. In fact, that reminds me of a quote that Tomlin said. He was talking with Rich Eisen and he made the comment. He goes, it's a challenge when it came to Russell and Justin, but this was a challenge that was different than when it's been in other years when they had 2 unattractive options. And so the first thing
That's lightly saying it.
Yeah, the first thing I thought was, man, he's really talking down about Kenny Pickett and Mr.
Oh my
Trubisky.
God.
Yeah, he said that. I was like, wow.
That's amazing, though. That's amazing. Honestly, that is. I mean, he's not wrong. Like 100%. Like I agree. Like you actually have 2 attractive options here. That's not saying that either one of these guys are breaking the bank. Obviously, you hope Russ can be capable, Fields can be capable, and then Fields can maybe take over in the future. But That's funny. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I got a good laugh out of it, and he was
Yeah.
he kept going with it. He's like, "Yeah, it's been. I've had moments where we've had two less attractive options, and I had to choose the lesser of the two, or the greater of the lessers, or whatever."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Dang, he's really pouring it on without mentioning names." I think everybody understands and
Oh,
knows what he's
100%.
talking about. I
Perfect.
mean, you wouldn't give up on a first round pick after 2 years just like that if you didn't think that was the case. And so, um, him saying that just kind of told me that, all right, both of these guys are already, I mean, I think it would have been hard for them to be at the level of Mitch and Kenny. They're
Yeah.
surpassed that. They're significantly better. He has confidence in both of them. And I'm excited to see what Justin can do with a game plan tailored towards him.
Right.
Let's see what he has. Let's see what they open it up to. I do think he's dangerous with his legs, and defenses are going to have to account for that, which is going to leave some opening areas
Yeah.
in the middle of the field. And because the middle linebacker is usually the person that's going to be, shadowing the quarterback there. So Pat Fryermuth needs to have a game this week, in my opinion. But I think that the Steelers will, and I know we're getting kind of close to it. But when it comes to the defensive side, real quick about last week's game, who I think is going to have even more of a load this week, is Peyton Wilson. I think he
Yeah.
did freaking awesome.
Yeah.
He saved a touchdown there, tackling
Yeah,
Bijan
he
from
did.
behind
Yeah, he did.
right there. And I think he ended up getting more snaps than Landon Roberts just by one. But I think that that's going to continue to trend in that direction. What did you think
Yeah.
about Peyton?
Yeah, he had a couple really nice plays. Looking at the snap count was pretty down the line outside of Patrick Queen, so I think that's a promising sight for him. They really like him and the opportunity he's going to get. I think he just offers a different element of speed, man, and athleticism. And I think that's really what they need in that middle part of the lineup because Landon Roberts just a thumper, strong tackler. Peyton Wilson, he's gonna give you a little bit more than that, I think. So we'll see how they kind of play that out with Denver. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something similar there. But yeah, it's definitely encouraging to take away. Had a good preseason, had a good camp. Definitely would have gone higher in the draft wasn't for the knee issues. But definitely promising on his end. And if they can get a good, I don't know. I don't want to say good. I don't want to put like all these expectations on him. But if he can really come along as a strong rookie, their linebacker group will definitely be the best it's been in years. Long
Mm.
time. In a long, long time. They have had such a hard time figuring out that position between Bush and John Bostic and you name it with all these guys. Kwan Alexander, you name it. And if they can get if he can be rather healthy throughout the beginning of his career with Patrick Queen, I mean that can be a nice duo.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And what they were able to do to an offense like Atlanta's, who was getting a lot of praise, because of they got stars at every position. They got wide receivers, they got the tight end, got the super expensive quarterback, the running backs, and yet the Steelers defense held them down to a minimum. And I know a lot of folks are saying, oh man, maybe it was rust, maybe it was, they didn't play the preseason or he's coming off the injury. And they had a really good first drive, um, I think that if it was rust and it was all these other things, I think they would have started off stumbling as well. I don't think they would
Yeah.
have came out as good as they did.
Yeah.
It was the adjustments by the Steelers defense that ended up slowing down the Atlanta offense. And, if Atlanta goes out there this week and blows it up and scores 30 some odd points, I should just tell you that the Steelers defense is on fire. And now they got Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton. I think they're going to be playing a backup running back. How many points do you think Denver's
Their
going to?
offensive line's banged up too, Daniel.
Oh yeah. So do you think Denver gets into the end zone this week?
I'll say they do. Yeah, I say they do. I don't think they're going to get a ton, but I say they do. Could be garbage time. Could be fourth quarter. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So hopefully the Steelers can find a decent lead on them. There's no need to lose this game whatsoever. Honestly, even if Fields doesn't do anything like in terms of I don't know. How do I warn those? Like not going below the bar of last game, but really even taking a notch up. Even if he doesn't do that, if I'll put it that way, they still need to win this game. This still should be a game that they win 100%. And then you can reevaluate yourself going in against the Chargers at home. So I think Denver, Bo Nix going to get a ton of pressure. They're going to send the house on him as a youngster, as a rookie. He turned the ball over twice against Seattle, but he didn't look awful against Seattle, though. He didn't. I give him credit. I actually saw a good bit of that game. He did not look awful against Seattle. He made some good plays with his legs. He had some good throws down the field, which obviously was probably the most attractive thing about him coming out of college was his arm. But they're going to send the house. They're going to try to let him beat them. And having Watt, having Highsmith, the Steelers' defensive line played great. Benton, Cam, Ogunjobi. I thought they all were on point, man. I really did. I thought they were all on point against Atlanta. Bo Nix is going to have his he's going to have a hard time, but also I don't think Denver's defense is awful either, though. I think that they have some playmakers there too.
Good deal. So what is your score? What's your prediction? Everybody drop your scores in the live chat.
I'm gonna say we do see 1 or 2 touchdowns this game. I hope that we don't. I'd like to see 2. I would like to see. I want to see over 20, but I would like to see maybe 3 touchdowns scored this game. And Great. I'm not going to say. I don't know. I don't really know which way to lean, but if I'm going to give a final score, I'm going to say, I'm going to go 21 to 21-10. I'm going to go
21-10.
21-10. Steelers defense again just does a great job. Contains Bo Nix. Denver might get a touchdown at some point in the game. Might get a field goal. But I think that the Steelers find a good lead and just kind of contain that lead. Fields will make some plays with his legs. I think. I think we at least see a couple touchdowns. Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, 21-10. Boz, his leg's gonna still be involved, but not as much.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going with 7 field goals there. I was like, man, that's
dude. I might rip my eyes out if I see 7 field goals.
Boz is gonna be he's gonna be crazy by the end of the season. One of his legs is gonna be ginormous.
Yeah. Honestly, dude. Honestly. So, yeah, I like 21-10. Yeah, I like that ballpark around there.
See, I think that the Steelers are going to have 6 scoring possessions, but I think that they're going to end up getting 2 of those into the end zone. So I'm going to go with 26. So they end up with 8 more points than what they got last week.
Okay,
it's 26. And I think then Denver is going to end up with 9. I don't think they get into the end zone.
So then Fields is starting next week too.
I think Fields is going to end up starting against the Chargers.
Listen, I'm rooting for him. Like I'm in your boat too. I wanted to see Russ as well. I still think we could at some point. But the best case scenario is for Justin to do really well and for them to get more out of him than what Chicago was able to, which I think they can. Because Justin will tell you this, but I think really a lot of people, I think Bears fans will tell you too, they'll tell you the problems with Fields, but they'll tell you if you can clean up those problems, he can be darn good. He can.
And he's got everything, dude. He's got an arm.
He does. He's got an arm.
Legs.
Yeah, he's got the legs. He's got the build. It's that pocket presence. It's those mental lapses at times. It's those turnovers that are problems.
You know that Wonder Lick, whatever it's called, that IQ test thing that they do that Kenny Pickett scored a 17 on?
Yeah.
He scored the highest ever.
Did he? Fields did. Wow.
Yeah, higher than Brock Purdy, than Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, all of them. He's a very intelligent person.
Yeah.
And so if he can get it all together, I think he's going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
All righty. So we got James coming in 18-12 Steelers.
Okay. All right. So we're 25-0.
25-0 for Brian Brown.
That'd be beautiful. I mean, that helped my fans team against Daniel this week.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. I faced you this week. So we're at 21-3.
Well, Brian says if Justin Fields don't turn into Speedy Butterfingers, that's what I called him in Chicago. Now, I know, Brian, I've seen him in the comment section a couple places. What he's referring to is the fumbles. So if he don't fumble, if he don't drop the ball, that's where we're at.
Do you think he was nerves were kind of kicking in a little bit with a new team and everything like that for him? Or you just think it was just kind of just like his shtick of what happened?
I think it was a combination of Jetter's new, not just for him, but also Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
It was his first game as well as a center. And so,
and he did fairly well too.
Oh, he did great. I mean, he pancaked so many people. It was amazing.
I mean, I retweeted some film breakdown on him. So he did good. I give him a ton of credit. Really, the line I think in general really held their own. I don't think Spencer Anderson was shell either in there.
Steelers fan.
If Spencer Anderson can come around, because he was drafted last year, right?
Yeah, 7th round.
If Spencer Anderson can kind of come around and be maybe that 6th guy for them, I'll freaking take it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's some value in the 7th round.
That's absolute value. That's absolute value.
Steelers fan coming in 21-3 Steelers.
There you go.
James said that the 18-12 is 1 TD, 3 field goals,
all right, well, at least
and the safety.
Wow.
And the safety.
Okay, Blitzburg baby.
Corliss Waitman gets him down at the 1.
I'm heartbroken for Cam Johnston, man. I was really excited to actually have a good punter in there. It just doesn't seem like it's in the works. Now, when Waitman was here, he had some good kicks. So I'm not writing Waitman off or anything like that he's going to be a scrub for them. I do think that he's better than what they had with Harvin. I remember when they worked him out last year and they stuck with Harvin. But Waitman has bounced around the league a little bit, but he does have a strong leg. If you look at some of his numbers, there's some encouragement there. So if he can just give him consistency, that's all we need.
Yeah, he bombed a 62-yarder for the Steelers there when Presley's, I think it was his grandfather passed at the end of his rookie season, and he took some time off. Waitman came in and just boomed it.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have John coming in, a Steelers freak, saying 3 TDs and 300 yards.
Let's go. Let's go. You love to see it. Can't remember last time we saw that performance.
And that was probably Ben Roethlisberger.
2018.
Probably so. I don't remember the last time a quarterback threw for 300 yards.
When the arm was still intact, it was 2018.
There it is. Well, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
we'll be back.
Every one of you.
We'll be back next week. We're going to be doing this where we're going to be recording on at the same time on both channels. So you'll be able to see it on State of the Steelers and on In Hindsight.
Yep.
Check me out at State of the Steelers. Check out Nathan at In Hindsight. Nathan, any final words before we let everybody go?
Just good to be back, guys. Good to be back with Daniel here, man. Good to just get thoughts out there. Good Steeler discussion going on. Good to see all you guys in the chat as always. We know it's been a few weeks. Like I said, Daniel had some stuff going on. I did. We just couldn't really find that time that worked for both of us. So we apologize for that. But from here on out, we're going to be able to be consistent each week in terms of Steeler recap, Steeler news, discussion as you guys get it. George T. finishes off with 19-13 Steelers late touchdown from Denver. We'll take it. But yeah, we appreciate all your guys' support, man. It's always good to be here with you guys. Always good to be here with you, Daniel. Good discussion always. And we'll be back for next week.
See y'all next time. Peace.
Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel Che.